Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Leighanne and I talk about books. Today is the start of all of the year-end stuff. Now, as I'm filming this, it's like halfway through January because I'm a terrible person. I'm real bad at this. The holidays caught up with me and I am still trying to play catch up. So here we are, but I have finally made my list and done my stats and here we go. So just, so you kind of know what's going to be coming up in the next several videos. I'm going to start today, obviously, with my 2019 stats and just general review. From there, we're going to be talking about best of 2019, worst, most disappointing. I didn't read anything that was really bad, so, it's not really going to be like rants or anything. And then the best of is going to be non-horror thrillers, and then I'm also going to have a separate list for horror thrillers. I don't know in what order I'm going to post those. We'll just kind of see. If you have a vote, comment down below and let me know. But I thought that just my general stats for 2019 would be a really good place to start. Another thing that I want to know, I'm not making any goals, like no goals for 2020 as far as like what I want to do and how I want to read, because as of the last 2 years, I have come to the conclusion of I never stick to the goals that I set. Realistically, the only goal that I have really like stayed within has been I want to read this many books this year. Pretty much all I've done, like any challenge that I really set for myself, aside from being more mindful about what I read, is just, I haven't done a very good job with it. I just decided this year, especially since I still feel like I am in a period of transition, that I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. That means reading what I want to read. I do want to be mindful of certain things, and we'll touch on those as I get to those certain statistics. That's where we're at. So let's just, jump right into the stats. To start off with, the first thing that I want to know is the graphics that I'm going to be using in this video come from a spreadsheet from Brock from Let's Read. I will link his link to his channel as well as the link to the spreadsheet in the down bar below. One of the reasons that I really like this spreadsheet is it is highly customizable. You can, he's covered a lot of the different bases for different things, and as you'll see here, there's a lot of really good stats in here, but again, like I said, it's customizable, so that's one of the things that I really enjoyed. I haven't used any other reading spreadsheet. I've never made one of my own, so I can't speak to any other ones. This is just the one that I have used. This will be, I think, the 4th year that I have used it. No, this will be the 3rd year that I've used it, because I did 18, 19, and now this year. So, and I've really liked it. It's been really useful to me. So, yes, so that's where these stats are coming from. So to start out with, how many books did I read? I read a total of 92 books, which is significantly less than last year. However, I still count that as a major win. One of the reasons being is I went through a period of, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months towards the beginning of the year, like March through May, where I didn't really read anything. I think I was finishing maybe 1 book a month during that time period. So to get to 92 books after having that was pretty, I was pretty proud of myself for that. 92 books, I'm here for it. For 2020, I did set my goal, I think at like 85 or something, just because I don't want to pressure myself in any capacity. I think I set it 85 to Goodreads and also on my spreadsheet. So that comes to a total of 24,841 pages, which is roughly about 2,070 pages a month and roughly 270 pages average per book. In addition to that, I also listened to 296 hours of audio. However, I do listen at 2 to 3 times speed, depending on the platform that I'm using and how it sounds with that particular book. So 296 hours, half that. I'm very bad at math. Jake, where are you at when I need you? Anyway, 296, half that. So when it comes to overall, my best reading month was actually in January. I read 15 books in the month of January. My worst month being March and May, both of which I read 1 book during that time period. So, and that roughly equates to about 7.7 books per month. Physical versus digital books, 59 were physical and 33 were digital, so that's ebooks, audiobooks, e-arcs, that type of thing. So when it comes to books that were previously on my TBR versus books that were added to my TBR this year plus rereads, 31 were from this year, 55 were from last year, so on my backlist titles, I was real proud of that. And then only 6 of them were rereads. I didn't opt to reread a whole lot this year. One of the reasons being I just didn't feel like it. Longest book being Name of the Wind at 662 pages, shortest being In the Tall Grass, which was an ebook, and that's roughly around 60 pages. Condition of the books that I read, 63 were new, 12 were used, and 17 were from the library. Where did I get these books? 13 of them were purchases that I made in the year 2019. 5 of them were gifts, 19 were from the library, and titles that were actually, previously on my shelf, that is 55. So about over 85% of what I read this year was actually free. So that's actually really good, because for 2018, I spent way too much money on books. That's where I got a lot of my collection, was in 2018. I spent a ton of money, not just talking about like my Audible subscription or like book of the month or stuff like that, but I made a lot of book outlet orders. And I think this year I maybe made one. And it was towards the beginning of the year. I didn't even, for like my birthday or something, like I didn't even make an order for Black Friday or Boxing Day or any of that. I didn't do anything. I was proud of myself that most of my books were free and I didn't spend a bunch of money on them. I am not shaming anybody who does buy a lot of books. Let me be very clear about that. This is just like, that was a personal goal of mine and I made that, and that's cool. So formatting of the books that I read, 27 hardcovers, 29 trade paperbacks, 2 mass markets, 10 ebooks, 22 audiobooks, and then an e-arc. Breaking down age groups, 92% adult, 8% young adult, which is not surprising whatsoever. I tend to not read a lot of young adult. Not that I dislike it by any means. I just didn't find very much in young adult that I wanted to read. So there's that. So author gender, this is one that I found really interesting, because whenever I looked at my stats from last year, 2018, in 2018, I read far more male authors than I did female, and that was a goal that I really wanted to change. I want to read more female authors, especially female written horror. This year, while I did still read more male authors, it was much more evenly spaced. 49 male authors and 43 female. So I would say that's pretty good. So star breakdown this year. Star breakdown this year looked close to the same that it did for 2019. One of the reasons is I've kind of reached the point where I know what I'm gonna like, so I'm not forcing myself to read things that I don't think I'm gonna like. And so my ratings have subsequently been a lot higher. My average rating this year was 3.57 stars, which I count as pretty good. One of the things when it comes to my own personal rating system, 3 and above, it was good and I liked it. Once I get to 2 is really meh. If I rate something 1, I hated it. And I actually did not have a single 1-star rating this year, and I didn't have any DNFs either. So that was pretty good. However, out of the 92 books that I read, only 11 were rated 5 stars. We will be talking about those, well, some of those, during the best of series. 4 books were 4.5, so they were very, very close to 5, but something, quite wasn't there to make it a fully 5-star book. 25 were 4-star, 12, 3.5 stars, 31 books were 3 stars, only 4 were 2.5, and 5 were 2 stars. It's kind of nice knowing the kind of books that I'm going to like. And that's not to say that I don't take chances and read things that I wouldn't normally read. So speaking of, like genres and stuff, let's talk about genre breakdown. I ended up reading 5 nonfiction books this year, which is actually, I'm pretty sure, less than I read last year. So that was definitely a little bit, I don't want to say a failing on my part, because I definitely don't look at it as a fail, but I would want to read more nonfiction in the future. I read 3 science fiction books this year. I tend to separate these rather than lump them in the same category as, science fiction, fantasy. These 3 that are science fiction were like very heavily science fiction. But fantasy, I did read 12 fantasy books, which last year I'm pretty sure I read more, but this year you'll see where my interests mostly led. Contemporary, I did read 10, and the contemporaries that I read were absolutely amazing. For someone who loves historical fiction so much, I actually only read 5 historical fiction this year, and I have a whole shelf of it, so that's something that I really want to prioritize in the next year. And then where I spent my most time this year is in mystery thrillers with a whopping 30, and horror with 27. There is a very large difference to me in between just like a standard domestic thriller and a true horror. I think sometimes the line can be blurred, but there are certain characteristics that I personally look for whenever I differentiate those two genres. So, but obviously, I was kind of surprised that thrillers actually beat out horror this year. I don't know. I just like, and I read some really good ones, and you guys will see that on my best stuff list. And then I didn't read any poetry or romance. None. And the last thing that we're going to talk about as far as stats go is the diversity factor. So this year, 62% of what I read did not have any diversity in it whatsoever. So I did not do very well in that category, and I can acknowledge that. I'll have a breakdown graphic on the screen, but I'm not really gonna deep dive into that. But for this year, I really kind of want to really deep dive into that because there are a couple of categories in this particular breakdown, like combo. Well, what does combo mean? You know what I mean? That is, I would definitely say, a goal of mine. You know, I'm not setting a goal in that I'm gonna read X amount of books by people of color authors. Like, I don't want to sit here and like throw down hard numbers. I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on me just in general, but I want to say that I will be more mindful of what I read in the same way that I was a lot more mindful about the disparity between the male and female authors that I was reading. I think that I can do a much better job of being more mindful about the types of people that I'm reading from. And one of the things that I actually did for my birthday, I was given the opportunity to go to Second and Charles and, you know, pick out some used books. It's one of my favorite places, one of my favorite bookstores. I love it. It's very hit or miss. Sometimes you can find some really good stuff, and sometimes you just don't find anything. I came home with, I think, about 7 books, which I'm pretty sure at this point you guys have seen a haul. I'm almost positive you have. If you haven't, I'm sorry, it's coming. But I did make it a point to look for authors of color, authors that I had never heard of, settings that are not in the United States, things like that. So, and that is it. Those are my stats for 2019. I think 2019 started out rough as far as reading goes, but I was really happy with where I landed by the end of the year. So definitely happy about that. I know that I have been all over the place with my booktube content, so sorry about that. I'm not gonna sit here and promise that I will be more consistent, because every time I say that, I'm not. This is something that I still love doing. I do feel like very disconnected from the community right now, and that is my own doing. I'm fully aware of that, but I'm trying to like reintegrate myself personally, you know, while dealing with this transition, this life transition that I'm, you know, currently trying to deal with. So that's all I have for you guys. How do you guys think I did? Comment down below and let me know. And tell me something that you are really proud of whenever you look back at your reading from 2019. I would really love to read those types of comments. You can also reach out to me on Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram. All of my links can be found in the down bar below. If this is your first time here, hi, hello, I'm Samantha. Thank you for being here. If you like what you see and you want to see more, you can click thumbs up. You can hit subscribe if you haven't already. You can also click the little bell doodad to be notified whenever I post videos. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.